Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show, Saturday night feature. And for those that don't know, the Saturday Night Live, Saturday Night Live, that's a totally different show. Saturday night feature for the Willy Bragg Show is the time of the week where the Willy Bragg Show and the Kerberos News Group, i.e. KRTD Media, works in partnership to promote each other, meaning independent content makers promote each other by helping each other out by circumventing the algorithm censorship by YouTube and other areas of social media that likes to basically promote nothing but corporate media narratives and put aside alternative voices. And that's where we come in and try to be truth tellers. And so I hope each and every one of you are all doing well. I do this from two different computers, and I've been having some audio difficulty lately. And hoping in the next couple of weeks that's going to be taken care of when I get my new computer. It's just going to take a little time. So please bear with me until then. So anyway, as I said, I hope everybody's doing well and all of that. So we'll start off by talking about what's going on with what's going on the online left is sort of feeds into the window of what goes on with the left in general, because I do think that it's a window that if you don't solve the problem of the online left, it since everything is done through the internet these days, and it's kind of sad that things are done through the internet, whatever is done through the internet sort of reaches out in broader society. It's sad that it works out that way, and it shouldn't. Having that said, the fact that we have to resolve this pretty much tells me that if we don't, the right's going to win, corporations are going to win, and forces of reaction are going to win. And because of that, we're going to all lose. Everybody's going to lose at the end. And you don't need to do that when you have poverty as widespread as it is. You have culture war causing a lot of animosity toward each other, and you have a volatile situation in Russia, Ukraine, Taiwan, and China, and you have climate disaster also at hand. And I know this is like internet squabble, but we need to get our act together. And if we don't get our act together, we're going to have wider problems, because I'm going to tell y'all the truth. With all the people sniping at each other, everybody's like 80 to 90% on the same page. It's that rough 10 to 20% that causes a lot of pushback. And because of that pushback, we can't get to where we need to go from there. And we have opportunity. And that opportunity does not need to be squandered away, and it has been squandered away in a lot of ways. I mean, it's been squandered away twice by allowing Bernie Sanders to be having his nomination taken away from him, and everybody just sitting there, like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And nothing happened. We had Trump, and then now we have Joe Biden, and we can have orange Joe Biden. That's JB's words from RBN. I like that. Orange Joe Biden, i.e. Trump, the return of Trump. And certainly none of us want that to happen either. I'm on Team Cornel West, but that's just me, and I'm not here to tell people what they should do electorally as far as the 2024 election. But if I can't have Bernie, I'm going to have Cornel West. Robert Kennedy and Marianne Williamson, they got some strengths and they got some weaknesses about them. but neither of them have what Cornel West has, and he's got a political party, and he's got the best set of ideas from where I stand right now. So, but we're going to talk about the online left right now, and that's what we need to talk about. And we're going to talk about what I'm going to talk about would be like basically the people that started it all, because I'm going to go through a little bit of a history, because what prior to the year 2005, what existed prior to the year 2005 for information? You just had nothing but right-wing talk radio dominated in Fox News. And then you had a tepid centrist media that stood for nothing, that people were sitting there calling the liberal media. There's no liberal media, whatever you think liberal media means. Well, the Young Turks came in 2005, and they grew exponentially. And, it was a time that I watched the Young Turks and tell you that there was nothing wrong with them. They could do no wrong. Those days are long gone over. Started in 2016 when that Katzenberg money came to the Young Turks, and they went from when they accepted that money, that was when they started going into a more centrist direction. I mean, in 2020, they couldn't even decide whether they were going to go for Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. And that there was something wrong right there from the get-go. He said after the 2016 election, they went with the Russiagate narrative. Yeah, they were a little bit edgier than MSNBC, a little bit edgier than Rachel Maddow talking points and all of that. Yeah, I give them that. But they went and they focused on things that the corporate Democrats were focusing on, while sounding a little bit edgier, and that was a big problem right there. So, but what happened? Eventually, Jimmy Dore parted ways with the Young Turks, and he did his own thing, and they didn't like what he was doing because he preached from an independent point of view with politics. He saw that the Democrats were not going anywhere. He was a little bit open-minded with an AOC at the beginning, a little bit open-minded, with maybe a Ro Khanna here and an AOC there, certainly a Tulsi Gabbard, because that's who he supported in 2020. But then he realized nothing was going to get done with the Democrats. So he became very, very hostile toward the Democratic Party. And to be hostile toward the Democratic Party, even if you're critical of the Republicans and you're not a conservative, to sit there and part ways with the Democratic Party, in spite of how conservative the Democratic Party is, people equate that as turning right wing. And we're stuck in a two-party hellhole. And, so, you're stuck in a two-party hellhole and you don't know what to do. You stick with the Democrats and try to fight from within. But sometimes the Democrats end up making you part of the problem too. So, I mean, honestly, in my fair assessment of the situation is there's no real way out, because this is the reality of America. You can go independent. It's possible you won't get anything done. You go and work within the Democrats, I'm going to tell you, you're still not going to get anything done. You have two right-wing parties. And I would say, to tell each person, go whatever you think you ought to go with. I have gone totally independent, because I have no faith in what the Democratic Party will try to do. They can't even get a $15 an hour minimum wage. They couldn't even give us Build Back Better. And all they would tell people is, hey, vote harder, vote harder. Look at Roe versus Wade. Under Joe Biden, Roe versus Wade. Now, I will argue that Roe versus Wade was pretty much null and void over the years, because they chipped away at it and chipped away at it and chipped away at it to the point where it was almost, not a Supreme Court decision anymore. But the ceremony, well, I'm not going to call it ceremony. It officially became overturned last June. Now, that was a favor to the Democrats because they were barely able to keep their. They were barely no. They didn't. They were barely able to keep their majority in the Senate, and the Republican tsunami became a very, very tiny, slim, the slimmest majority, razor thin you can imagine. Now, I do suspect that the Republicans, as partisan Republicans, even those who are really pro-life, I suspect a lot of them are like they're probably sorry that Roe versus Wade was overturned because Americans are pretty moderate on that issue. They like Roe versus Wade, and they don't like their reproductive rights for women being fucked with. And that's exactly what's happened. Even if some women themselves would never get an abortion in a million years, they believe that bodily autonomy is pretty damn important. And it should not be up to somebody in some other part of the country or some evangelical minister or some politician what a woman can do with her body at the end of the day, regardless of whatever you may think of abortion yourself, because it's not up, and, just that's where I would take a stand on that. So, but anyway, let me get to what's going on. Jimmy Dore gets a lot of shit for going on places like Tucker Carlson. Same thing with Glenn Greenwald. Not Aaron Maté. I think Aaron Maté's been on Tucker Carlson. I know that Max Blumenthal's been on Tucker Carlson. They'll get some crap for being on Tucker Carlson, but for some reason, it's okay for Ana Kasparian to be buddying up with Ben Shapiro. I don't agree with Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with Tucker Carlson on pretty much most things, except maybe the anti-war stuff. His position on the Ukraine, I agree with. He now opposes the imprisonment of Julian Assange. That's a good thing. He even decided that it was wrong for the U.S. Department of Injustice to apprehend members of the African People's Socialist Party for supposed Russian ties and that sort of thing. And I think that was, in my opinion, that's why I think Fox News decided to go and terminate his appointment from them. But here's the thing about that. Tucker Carlson, as horrible as he is, he at least allowed Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald and maybe some other lefties, Tulsi Gabbard, if you still want to insist that she's a lefty, the verdict is still out on that one. And that's not a criticism. I ponder that question daily myself. There are days I'm a little bit irritated with her, and there are days I'm like, well, damn, Tulsi, you're sounding very base today. So it's hard to say. She's not fully Dave Rubin yet, and I think even if she wanted to be, she realizes she can't give up her lefty audience. So she's sort of in that conundrum. She's smarter than Dave Rubin in that regard, more cunning, more in that regard. But if you want to go and say she's a lefty, she goes on Tucker Carlson. She was substituting for Tucker Carlson when he was there. Jesse Walters is worse than Tucker Carlson. And for Ana Kasparian, I don't care if you go on Ben Shapiro's show, but Ben Shapiro is worse than Tucker Carlson. I mean, I don't think that Tucker Carlson's pro-working class. It's just he talked about being for the workers. But at least there's some rhetoric there, populist rhetoric. Ben Shapiro does not even pretend. He comes as advertised. He defends the wealthy. He defends the oligarchy openly. And you go up there and you're going to criticize Jimmy Dore and some other people on the left for going on Tucker Carlson. It's not like they're agreeing with Tucker Carlson on the laundry list of Rush Limbaugh talking points from 1993. I'm yet to hear any agreement on those talking points. So anyhow, let me go ahead and do this here. So what I want to do is talk about Ana Kasparian. She's had some pushback from people on the far left in her ecosystem, her circle. People like Michael Figueredo, people like David Dole, people, groups like what they call the leftist mafia, which is a very boring show online. I haven't even subscribed to the show. It's just like I listened to it a few times. I'm like, okay, yeah. A couple of soy boys talking. All right, I mean, I'm not, I'm not exactly the most alpha guy in the world, okay? But it's just kind of like they're not particularly. It's not particularly an impressive show. I'm sure they're all nice in person and everything. It's just kind of, it's not edgy like it would have been maybe in 2017 or something like that. It's just not edgy. Doesn't grab me. There's so much better in alternative media and these days than that. And although I don't consider myself in their league, there's much better programs on the online left than the leftist mafia. I mean, there is the Due Dissidence. That's way better. A Revolutionary Blackout Network, way better. I mean, there's Heartlands Media, way better. There's some standard bearers out there. Gray Zone, way better. And Jimmy Dore, way better. Of course, he's more, old school, but I'm giving you as an example. And some people may disagree, and I'm going to just say his name real quick. Maybe even once in a while, even old Kyle Kalinske can chuck out a good talking point, although he's lost his edge. But I'll put it this way. In the mainstream online left, if you didn't force a vote in early 2021, late 2020, early 2021, that's basically what I go by. And Young Turks, Majority Report, all you guys, the only, who y'all, you know who you are. So anyway, speaking of Due Dissidence, they commented the other day on Ana Kasparian. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and play that from Due Dissidence. So let me go ahead and find that here. When my show gets big enough, I will hire a producer to go and do this for me here. So let me get the volume thing set up here. Let me know if there's a problem. Let me know if there's a volume problem. So the reason I'm asking is we're having audio difficulties right now. So give me 2 moments here. All right. Okay, and let me get that screen on full. It should be working. Okay, let me know if there's a volume discrepancy, and I'm going to go ahead and play it right now.
Thinkers, let's hear this.
What I see happening right now is I want the left to engage in the argument as opposed to what I see happening, which is them engaging in like ad hominem in a lot of cases, character assassination, or statements about the individual's character based on their preconceived notions and based on what they heard other streamers say about the individual. It's like, okay, just take a step back for a second. You need to address the point that this person is making. And if you're not addressing the point that this person is making, and instead you're turning around and throwing all sorts of accusations at them to make them seem like they're immoral or they're bad people, then that tells me that you don't really have an answer to what they're saying, And I see that happening more when it comes to culture war related issues as opposed to economic issues. And that's the other thing. I mean, I think that the left has completely, and they'll deny this, but I mean, just go to Twitter right now. They've abandoned economic policies and instead hyper-focused on incredibly divisive, identity related issues, right?
Yeah.
And their take is always, oh, well, the other side wants us just they're racist, that's why. They're transphobic, that's why. And it's like, no, you gotta do more than that. So if you're gonna refute what they're saying, than actually address the points they're making. And if you're not going to do that, you're going to come out looking incredibly weak and childish.
All right. So, once again, this is in keeping with my overall take. Like, I don't really have an issue with anything she said there. On the other hand, that is a result of instructing people to vote for Democrats year after year, despite voicing your objections to them on these economic policy grounds. Like, how do you think the left became obsessed with identity politics issues? Because that's the beat that the Democrats have been on since 2016, when they insisted there would be no real economic platform within the party. So as long as you funnel support into that organization, of course, those things are going to become dominant. And TYT has been a guilty party, in my view, of doing that. That's number one. Now, number two, where I think she does have a reasonable point to make, is that there is a denialism on the left of certain problems. Now, again, Cenk came out and said he was voting for Rick Caruso for mayor of LA. I don't believe Ana ever came out and said that explicitly, but I know she shared a couple of posts of his and sort of promoted him, subtly at times. So it's possible, if not likely, that she did herself. And if she's on the record saying she didn't, I will retract that, obviously. But from what I can tell, it seems she probably did. So that's a disagreement that I would share with Ana for sure, is how, okay, once you acknowledge a certain set of information, at that point, it is the job of the left to go out and win the argument. So where she's correct to say is that, like, the left doesn't have to deny that there's an uptick in crime or that crime is making cities unsafe or unpleasant, right? That doesn't have to be a victory for the right. In other words, you don't have to follow from there to, well, I'm supporting Caruso, because a lot of people on the left would acknowledge that, yes, while crime is a problem, we understand that when you put the Giuliani or the Caruso or the Paul Vallis, in Chicago's case, in charge, all that happens is more cops, more jails, and higher rents for everybody else. These are basically landlord mayors. And so there is a reason to engage and say, okay, we acknowledge crime is on the rise. We acknowledge crime is a problem, but we are going to approach this from a more progressive point of view. That is what the people of Chicago just did. And this is not to sing the praises of Brandon Johnson. I don't really have much faith in him, but he was the progressive alternative to Paul Vallis. So the people of Chicago did not deny the existence of crime or the problem of crime. 63% of people in that city admitted that they felt unsafe on the street. Yet they voted for the progressive or the right-wing candidate. So there's an insecurity among so much of the left, and that's what she's really getting at there. That's what she's getting at there. There's this real insecurity that if we acknowledge the facts of the case, it means we cannot win the arguments. That insecurity is born of a shallow political analysis. And my main critique of Ana and Cenk these past few years is that they have fostered that shallow political critique. Right? They have not embraced an actual left alternative to the status quo. They have toed the line between progressive rebels and then, when it counts, before Election Day, loyal Democrats. So what you have are a bunch of very confused people who don't really have an actual critique of the system. And so that makes them very confused when you go in this other direction. Well, now you're just denying reality, right? If you don't admit that crime is a problem or that there are excesses of the trans movement and things like that, right? Well, yeah, sure they are. Sure they are. But you taught them to do that. Right? I mean, this is part of how you got here. And I do think her awakening here is sincere. I don't think she's grifting. I mean, she's putting herself in a very precarious spot here. She doesn't know what tomorrow brings.
There's no
right? She's too far left for the Daily Wire. They're not going to take her.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, they would if she went full in that direction.
But she's not going to, because she's got more brains than that. Like, if Dave Rubin is a fucking empty-headed moron,
right.
And he always was. And so,
well,
yeah,
and also, I think it's sincere. So she's just not gonna. She's not suddenly gonna have on the road to Damascus revelation and then start grifting, right? Like, this is, in her mind, getting away from what she would perceive as a grift now that she's had this realization. It is funny, and we'll get into it a little bit tonight and more on Friday. In many ways, all these people attacking them are their children. This is their children. This is their children going after mom and dad, right? Cenk and Ana birthed all these channels. The Humanist Reports, Majority Reports, David Dole. I mean, a lot of them were in partnership with the Young Turks. Humanist Report, he just
they were on their network,
left their network, and I don't know if that ever got resolved because he wasn't able to remonetize himself.
He did.
After he left, he did get a result. That's why he's not ranting about it anymore. He stopped having a nervous breakdown on there. So this is really mom and dad moving away from, and this is, I think, what you're getting at. They raised them to think the way they think. They raised them to be these knee-jerk, have this very oversimplified perspective to boil everything down to the MAGAs and transphobes. That's how you raise them. It's like the old drug ad. I learned it from watching you.
Well, they raised them to feel like anyone who bucks the party line is doing it because they're grifting and drifting to the right way. How many hit pieces did they run against Jimmy for taking positions on things that didn't fit the party line? Right. And so now she takes a position that doesn't fit the party line. Of course they're going to come for her.
Right. They created this environment of absolute conformity. And Cenk, look, with her, and this is the woman, and again, we'll get more into this Friday. This is the woman who went on there and said, I'm better than you. Right. Now, with Cenk, I feel I never really felt with her that she's just putting on a show. I felt like this is really who she is. Cenk's putting on a show. Like, I've seen Cenk do very intentional faking that he lost it for a minute, like dropping the F-bomb and then catching himself. Look, man, Cenk's been on the air a long time. He don't drop the F-bomb by accident. He doesn't have it.
Yeah. And there's more to that, but my point is that let me do this here. My point is that Cenk is fake. And Ana Kasparian, she's sincere when she's hot-headed the way she is at times, but what's the phrase? Chickens are coming home to roost. This is pushback. I mean, this is what they get. I mean, it's coming back to bite them in the ass for what's happened over the years. I mean, like they said. This is what they raised, and what they raised was in some ways more obnoxious than them themselves. Now, they weren't always like, you disagree with them, you're a racist piece of shit, you're a transphobe, you're a sexist, and all that. I mean, they had a few good years of doing certain things, and don't get it twisted. They have done some raunchy things too. Like, for example, those are things that they scrubbed away called "Who's Got the Camel Toe," and some of the stuff that can be considered kind of sexist. And there was a video of some videos where Cenk said some things that could have been considered transphobic about a decade ago, and all of that, and so it's just kind of like they those that throw stones at glass houses, are they able to put up a good story now and then? Sure. I mean, I'll peek at the Young Turks. I haven't subscribed to them for the past 2 years. When they decided to go after Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate, I'm just like, okay, fuck them. I'm going to go ahead and unsubscribe for them. That was the straw that broke the camel's back from 2 years ago. So they got what was coming to them in that regard. But, we'll go back to that beginning. Let's go back to that beginning, because I think that's what we need to do, because, we're going to revisit 2 years ago when all this happened. It provided me 50 new subscribers when it happened. 50 new subscribers back then was a lot during the summer of 2021 over a few weeks when they were all going back and forth at each other. And for some reason, okay, let me get everything set up over here. Hold on. Okay. All right, let me see here. We're going to get back to this, and we'll and I will respond some more. All right. Sorry, folks.
Your use of work here. It's a decision I deeply regret. We try to expand the spectrum of what is acceptable thought. And so corporate media has it easy. They just have to ask, do you believe in the status quo? And people answer that, not explicitly, but implicitly through their answers, and then they get hired that way. We hire a wider range of folks, and sometimes it goes wrong. And Jimmy's one of those examples. So, and I found out recently about an incident that happened while he was working here. And now the person that's talking about it is Jimmy. So he's been attacking us online over and over again with nothing but lies and smears, some of which I'm going to show you right now. But we still held back. And of course it's frustrating. He was a friend. Or at least I thought he was, to me and to a lot of people here. And we've been a little shell-shocked by not the disagreements. Who cares? We had disagreements when he was here. That's not an issue at all. But by honestly the lies and the smears and the attacks that were deeply personal in nature. So both Ana and I got frustrated, and at one point she sent him a DM that that Jimmy's going to talk about in this clip that we're going to show you, and it was basically saying, look, we know all these things, a value that we haven't shared before, in a way of saying we are holding back while you're going nuts.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have no humanity or decency, and then you're about to find out the answer to that, because this is what he said on there. But before we get to that,
yeah. So I want to be clear about something. So the DM that I sent him specifically called him out on his constant sexual harassment of me at this place, at TYT. I also want to be clear that I didn't talk about it with anyone. I never talked about it with Cenk until very recently, because for obvious reasons. And so I sent him that DM because the harassment has continued. It's not sexual harassment. It's been constant harassment online that wouldn't go away. Doesn't matter if I ignore him, which some of my friends, my leftist friends, have told me, just ignore him, it'll go away, just ignore him, ignore. Kept going and going and going, directing trolls at me nonstop. And finally I couldn't take it anymore. So I sent him that message saying, you remember what you did to me. And I can't stand that he positions himself as this moral fighter for progressive values when he and I both know the kind of behavior he engaged in when he was working here. So I wanted to give you that context.
So by the way, why didn't Ana tell me? Because I would have fired him. And no good deed goes unpunished. So she didn't tell me. He kept working here. And next thing you know, he's about to tell you a story of what happened. Now, ironically, there's lies in here too. But let us show you who Jimmy Dore actually is. Here, let's begin.
But here's how she's trying to threaten me. And I'll tell you why this is a big mistake on her part. She says, I'm sure you remember when you constantly made inappropriate comments about how sexy you found me at work, and even felt the need to ask me where I shop for my jeans so you can buy a pair for your wife so she dresses better. Thank you. That was followed by an apology card you wrote me for the degrading harassment. I've been holding back, letting you run your mouth nonstop as if you're some sort of warrior for what's good in the world. That's going to change. So now instead of saying I paid by the Russians or saying I'm working for Assad, she's now going to try to pretend I sexually harassed her when I was at the Young Turks.
Now, I give you that as a lead into what the story he's about to tell you. Okay, so he claims and laughs about how Ana was pretending that he was sexually harassing her. Then we don't have to say anything else. Let Jimmy tell you what he thinks happened.
I'll tell you this story. The story about that was followed by an apology card you wrote me for degrading harassment. Ana Kasparian used to dress when I worked there unbelievably inappropriately for a newsroom. She looked like she was going to a rave. The skirt, one time she came into the newsroom with a skirt so short, it wasn't a pencil skirt, it was like a fluffy one too, but so short that she bent over in front of me and I literally saw her ass. And her thong, she's wearing a thong. I literally saw it, everybody saw it. And I go, hey, Ana, nice news skirt. And everybody laughed. Like they laughed louder than I thought they would. And so it humiliated her. She got humiliated in the middle of the newsroom, and I did it, and I felt bad. At that time, we were friendly, and I was just busting her balls, right, for dressing like that in the newsroom. You're going to bend over and show me your ass? I think that's a little, I'm not offended, but I think that's a little risque. Imagine if I did that. I walked around showing my ass to everybody. So when I did that, so she got really mad. She got humiliated. Her face turned red. She tried to insult me back, and it just fell flat, and she looked, bad. And I felt bad for her. I didn't want to make her feel bad, but I just wanted to make a little joke. And all I said was, hey, Ana, nice news skirt. And everybody in the newsroom, because everybody saw how inappropriate she dresses. She used to dress. And everybody saw it. And so that's why I got such a huge laugh, and she was so humiliated.
Now, I'm going to interrupt for a second. When it comes to sexual harassment, I think it's wrong. But you know what? I believe Jimmy, and I literally do not believe Ana Kasparian. And it's not because I am more sympathetic to Jimmy Dore than Ana Kasparian. For what Ana Kasparian has said about the matter, and what Jimmy Dore has said about the matter, connecting the dots, I am convinced that what Jimmy Dore said is more accurate. That he made an inappropriate comment, and it was inappropriate. I'm even going to tell you it was inappropriate, but I don't think he meant it to be inappropriate. Not saying it was right or what have you, but I do think he felt bad and what have you. I think that I wasn't there. I don't work for the Young Turks. I don't know any of them. Maybe Jimmy Dore and Steph barely know who I am. Barely, but but I know that Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur don't know who I am. But the point is that I'm going to be inclined to believe. I'm going to be inclined to believe Jimmy Dore. I'm inclined to believe Tara Reid over what happened with Joe Biden. Powerful politicians think they can do whatever the hell they want, and that's the difference right there, the power structure. He was under her in the Young Turks. And as far as authority, she was the one of authority. She's the vice president, top executive at the Young Turks. And he was kind of just a regular commentator at the Young Turks. His show was just an affiliate of the Young Turks. In a sense, at the time, he was just, a peon in the way that David Packman was a peon, or Sam Cedar, or Kyle Kalinske, or Dave Rubin when Dave Rubin was on the Young, when he had the Rubin Report under the banner of the Young Turks. She was an authority figure, and so I don't think that most people would sit there and jeopardize themselves on purpose like that. Now, contrast that with Joe Biden being in a position of power with someone like Tara Reid. No wonder she had to leave the country and everything. But, I'm inclined to believe Tara Reid. I'm not inclined to believe Ana Kasparian. And that's the big difference. And it has to do with people of position and power more than anything else. And Jimmy Dore didn't have the position and power. Neither did Tara Reid. Ana Kasparian did. And so did Joe Biden. Not saying that Ana Kasparian is the same as Joe Biden. What I'm saying is, I'm just talking about the position of authority in that regard, if that makes any sense. I'll let Jimmy continue.
So he just tells a story like, I humiliated her then, and now I'm going to tell you a story of how funny it was that I tried to humiliate her. Now, since it's Jimmy, half the story's not true, of course. But assume it is. That's your big hero right there that does that to women, looks up their skirt and then laughs at them, and then pretends it's their fault that he's looking up their skirt. Now, what part's this?
That's not exactly what happened, Cenk. You're twisting it around. And honestly, she can dress any way she wants. One area where I would take issue with Jimmy Dore is where he said it was inappropriate. I don't give a shit if she wears a short skirt. People can dress any way they want. Honestly, and in that regard, I'm going to be sympathetic to Ana Kasparian for 5 seconds on that one. But otherwise, I'm inclined to believe Jimmy. And you're trying to twist it around, make it sound like he's much worse than, make it sound situation sound much worse than it is. So anyway, well, what it looked like, it looked like that they have to sit there and drag Kyle Kalinske into this. Kyle Kalinske was the affiliate also to the Young Turks at the time. Jimmy Dore show was no longer affiliate of the Young Turks. Jimmy Dore was by itself, but was, prior to that, there were all three shows shared the same audience. The TYT shared the same audience with the Kyle Kalinske audience and Jimmy Dore audience. They all share the same audience and subscribe to each other and everything. And then you got some people that may like one show more than the other. They may like Jimmy Dore and they're like, the hell with TYT. Or the TYT people are like, oh, I like TYT, but the hell with Jimmy Dore. You had that kind of factionalism. And 2 years ago, I subscribed to all three of them and like all three of them. Now, initially, I'll tell you, initially, I was more on Kyle Kalinske's side 2 years ago, more than anybody else. Followed very close second to Jimmy Dore and never sided with TYT. My position on TYT never changed. TYT was wrong. I'm looking back, I'm now kind of more on Jimmy Dore's side, and I still think Kyle got done wrong. He was done wrong by TYT. Maybe I might think Jimmy Dore might have been a little too harsh on Kyle, but I do think that TYT was just terrible all through and through. They were terrible to Jimmy Dore. They were terrible to Kyle Kalinske. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play you that video with Kyle Kalinske putting his 2 cents into what happened there. And it is all in the name of a bigger context. So give me 2 seconds here. We will find it. Is that? There it is. There it is. Okay. StreamYard is very easy to use, but it's still, there's a little bit of clumsiness when I use it too. So give me a couple of seconds here. All right. Here we go.
Is being recorded pretty late at night. I actually didn't have the time to prep a normal show for you all. I was gonna prep a normal show for you all, but then a giant wrench got thrown into those plans because there was a little bit of Twitter drama that unfolded. There were some passive-aggressive shots that were taken at me. I didn't take kindly to that. And so now I feel like my hand is being forced, and I have to weigh in on an issue that I don't want to weigh in on. So I'm a little cranky. I'm a little tired. I don't really want to be doing this segment, but now I feel like I have to do this segment. Because of the timing of all this, it has fucked up the potential for a normal show tomorrow, which is a shame because I'm going to have to hop in my car and go to DC, and I don't have enough time to prep and do a show and get all that stuff taken care of. But anyway, enough on the backstory and the current situation. Let's dive into it. So obviously I'm going to talk here about the drama between Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mate versus the Young Turks. So I just want to reiterate, I don't want to do the segment. I don't want to talk about it. I've bent over backwards to stay out of this fight. Now, some of you might not like that. I don't care. I don't care. I'll never hide a single thing from any of you when it comes to policy. But when it comes to personal shit, I don't want to get involved in it, and I want to stay out of it. And that's always how I've been. That's always how I will be. I'm an introvert. I hate drama. This is some fucking drama shit, and I want nothing to do with it. So the reasons why I want nothing to do with this, number one, it's obvious. Jimmy, Cenk, and Ana are all personal friends of mine. So it puts me in a really weird place. Now, you can pretend like that's not a good reason, but you all know it's a good reason, and you all know if you were in my shoes, you'd feel the exact same way. But the second reason is probably the more important reason, which is it's ugly and it's personal, which is all the more reason for me to stay out of this. And by the way, I should also add, I'm speaking on behalf of Crystal as well here, because she also has desperately wanted to try to stay out of this. But clearly I can't. She's somehow managed to still not have to really dive into it, at least as much as I'm about to right now. All right, so we're good.
At that time, it's funny you mentioned Crystal in 2021. At that time, everybody was rumoring something's going on between those two, and that turned out to be the case.
I'm going to break this down. Everybody understand, and please, for the love of God, listen to every word that I'm going to say here. Don't listen to parts of it and then get triggered and then shut it off and fucking freak out or whatever. He's not on my team and he fucking tweeted him. I'm not going to read your shit. Everybody calm the fuck down. There are two separate conversations we're going to have here. There are policy conversations and there's personal conversations. Two separate ones. It's not all the same. It's not all the same. There's policy stuff and there's personal stuff. Saying that up front. So I'm only weighing in here because I've been dragged in. I have to give you my take now on every little aspect of this. And so that's what we have to do. Let's bring the timeline back. It wasn't always like this between Jimmy and TYT. You don't believe me? Take a look.
Lo and behold, the Young Turks opened up their door to me, and I walked in. And we've been working together ever since. And I remember Steve-O was there, and I met Ana that first time, and JR. And it was, I was so, it was such a fun place to be. And so I was real thrilled and flattered that they invited me to be part of their group. And one of the funnest times of my life was the Bernie Sanders campaign. And so I just want to thank Cenk Uygur and everybody at TYT for including me. I've been blessed with good people in my career. And, it was a real stroke of luck that I was able to work with the Young Turks and Cenk Uygur. So good luck to them going forward. And again, I hope we can come together and work on something in the future.
All right, so Jimmy Dore has exited the building, and I think that a lot of you probably have seen his video talking about that. And he used to host Progressive, this show, along with the Jimmy Dore show. And so first thing I'd like to say is I love Jimmy Dore. And I always have, and I hope that I always will. And so it's certainly not anything personal at all. And we had wonderful, wonderful moments on air with Jimmy throughout a great number of years here at the Young Turks.
That is what I call a love fest. That is what I call people who have deep admiration and respect for each other. That wasn't that long ago. So since then, I don't want to paint an overly rosy picture. Of course, there have been disagreements. There have been deep disagreements about Syria and Russia and forced the vote and other things. But at that time, we were sort of at the peak of Russiagate. And I know, because I know all these people personally, that the Russiagate thing bothered Jimmy just as much off air as it did on air. He felt like it sort of ruined friendships, and he couldn't believe that there were people who were falling for that bullshit. And so the more TYT would cover it, the more angry he would get. And then what would happen is Jimmy would go on air and do his show, and he would never directly or overtly call out the Young Turks at that time, but there would be little pot shots here and there about how, other lefty shows are not, telling you the truth about this Russiagate thing. And so that went on for a long time. I think at some point, eventually, somebody at TYT caught wind of the fact that Jimmy was taking shots at them. And, that led Anna to go on Twitter and basically say something along the lines of, I think Jimmy's a grifter, and I don't think he's an honest actor. I don't agree with Anna on that. She said that. It was fucked up. But as soon as I read that tweet, I said, uh-oh, here we go. This shit is about to get nuclear, because Jimmy Dore has one gear, and that gear is nuclear. And I was exactly right. So Jimmy sort of went nuclear a little bit there. Now, it didn't really get, irreparable until Force the Vote. That's when it became irreparable. Now, to this point, on the substance, I'm with Jimmy so far. So when it comes to Syria,
I would agree with that. I think Force the Vote was kind of like a moment right there. I think it between the Bernie campaign in 2016 and Force the Vote, there was a lot that was going down at that time, not just at the Young Turks and the Jimmy Dore show and what have you. It was the online left where the unity was the strongest during the Bernie 2016 campaign. I said, and the Due Dissidence guys said this earlier, that the Young Turks sort of birthed the online left, and that there's truth to that. There is a lot of truth to that. The 2016 campaign, you could almost say that Bernie Sanders, whether you're large like TYT or large, even though they were around, and Kyle Klinsky was around, and Jimmy Dore was around, and Amazing Atheist was around, or all these folks were around, that they're the children of Bernie Sanders. Oh, shit. I dropped my ring light. Damn it. Sorry about that. They are the children of Bernie Sanders. And I will argue that the Due Dissidents, I will argue that the Heartlands Media, I will argue that RBN, I will argue that some of these other programs that's been around in the last couple of years that they're now occupying this new space. Savvy Sabs, all of the, Nico House, all Combo Couch. They're also the children of Bernie Sanders. All of us have been my program. I started because of the Bernie Sanders campaign. The point I'm trying to make is that there was the fracturing you saw happen between Bernie Sanders 2016 and Force the Vote in late 20 and early 2021. Damn it, that January 6th insurrection made people forget about Force the Vote. I always felt like. So, that was one more reason I'm angry at those chuds because, the national, everybody just basically forgot about Force the Vote after we went through, a goddamn pandemic. And this was an opportunity to do something meaningful about healthcare and to save tens of thousands of people's lives. And let me tell you, I'm convinced that tens of thousands of people's lives were lost because of what those motherfuckers did on January 6th. That kind of made people forget about Force the Vote, where Nancy Pelosi could have felt the heat, and she would have the squad could have actually extracted from Nancy Pelosi herself. And you know what? Time and time again, Force the Vote, I'm going to say it again. I'm going off the subject here. Force the Vote works. It works. And to prove it that it works, and it's not a grift, to prove that it works is that the right wing used it, and they made it work. Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert studied the left and realized what idiots we were for not using Force the Vote. They used it to extract concessions from Kevin McCarthy. And I loved it when Breonna Joy Gray told Bosch that he's got a lot in common with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Just like Marjorie Taylor Greene being angry at Matt Gaetz and being angry at Lauren Boebert and that small little MAGA caucus that she broke company with. That just like Bosch, she opposed Force the Vote too. Two peas in a pod, Bosch and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Think about it, folks. I'll let Kyle continue.
Syria, when it comes to Russia, when it comes to Russiagate, when it comes to Force the Vote, none of this is a secret. You guys have seen all my fucking segments. You know where I fall on those policy issues. It's the most obvious thing in the world. But now we get to this new round where the war has ramped up, and it really is a war now. So this recent round all started with this video from the Young Turks talking about Aaron Mate in their postgame.
They said Aaron Mate yelled at me. And
Oh,
so
Aaron Mate, Aaron Mate. Everyone cares what Aaron Mate has to say, right? The guy who denies that Syrian children were killed with chemical attacks. Yeah.
And
Fuck
gets
Aaron
paid by
Mate.
the-
Yeah, fuck you.
Gets
Anyway,
paid
let's
by the
move on.
Russians.
Let's end the freaking pod. I can't.
Okay, see, that's what happened.
I can't stand.
You just
I can't stand that guy, and I can't stand the very intentional disinformation they put out there in regard to disgusting dictators around the world. The very people they seem to be working for, to be quite honest with you. Let's move on.
All right, we're done.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
So let's state the obvious.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's enough of that there. And y'all remember that Ana Kasparian meltdown, one of her many meltdowns. I would say one thing about Ana Kasparian. Her meltdowns are entertaining. They truly are. They truly are very entertaining. Just to hear her go off on people, you know, the way she does, because you're very sanctimonious at times and everything. And you know, the thing about it is that yeah, I personally think she has a crush on Aaron Mate. The way she was just like, fuck that, you know, and they're very people. yeah. So just an opinion. But anyway, getting back to that whole thing, yeah, you know, and it was quite an interesting summer because, you know, 2021, because that was like the break between any semblance of what could be a unified online left. There were animosities that was building up, and there were people on the online left, one faction and the other, telling each other to F off here and F off there and all of that. I mean, and there were people always that didn't like each other. I mean, Amazing Atheists always hated Cenk Uygur from day one, for example. It's just funny hearing him, you know, hearing some of the stuff he said and all of that. And, you know, and I know that Tim Black and Nico House had a falling out, for example. So there are, you know, there's been falling outs. And of course, Jimmy Dore and Sam Cedar, their war at each other, you know, and to the point where you can't even say Sam Cedar's name on the air. Yeah, MSNBC man is was said on his show, and Sam Cedar needs to get a life if he's going to sit there and talk about Jimmy Dore 2 or 3 times a week. Now, strangely enough, I don't like Emma Vigeland, but I'm on her side over Ana Kasparian on this whole issue of the trans and all of that, because you know, I'm not particularly woke, but I fully support trans rights. To me, when it comes to the whole LGBTQ issue, the LGBTQ, it's not special rights. It's equality. Equality is not a special right. One of the reasons why in June, as an ugly cisgender straight man, don't tell Elon Musk I said cisgender. He'll suspend me from Twitter. No, as an ugly cisgender straight man, the reason why I decided to put up a Pride Month for interviews on the Willy Bragg show is because the attacks I have been seeing has been so horrible, and it's not woke. It's not woke to be for human rights. I mean, it's not politically correct to be for human rights. It's just correct. It's what good people do. Not that I'm saying I'm sanctimonious or anything, but you know, to be for human rights, and LGBTQ individuals deserve human rights, just like African Americans deserve human rights, Hispanics deserve human rights, Jewish people, Muslim people, Buddhists deserve human rights, atheists deserve human rights. If you're a white person from Nebraska, you deserve human rights. You get what I'm saying. We're all human beings, and human beings are entitled to human rights, and that's my point. And so, but here's the thing about it: with all this infighting, it's gotten personal and ugly. You know, now I'm all for crapping on Dave Rubin. You know, when the online left goes after Dave Rubin, and at first I thought they were a little rough on Dave Rubin because I didn't see it right first. In fact, there's somebody on my chat line that warned me about Dave Rubin at first, and a super Plantain man, you were correct, and I was wrong, and I concede to your point. Now you warned me about him, and I'll tell you the point where I knew that something was wrong with him is when he said that he would have chosen. He said in 2016 he voted for Gary Johnson between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I get that. I voted for Jill Stein. So even though I'm not a libertarian, I get voting libertarian between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I get it. I understand that. I can respect that. But then you go around and say, oh, if it would have been Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, I would have voted for Donald Trump. That means you respected Hillary Clinton more than Bernie Sanders. That means Dave Rubin, you're a piece of shit. You know, if you're going to go cancel somebody out, cancel Dave Rubin. I mean, not that I believe in cancel culture, but that's who, whether you're David Pakman or whether you're Sam Cedar, whether you're Jimmy Dore, or whoever the hell you are on the online left, on a political level, if you want to go and say Dave Rubin's a piece of shit, yeah, he's problematic. What he did to the left, he tells lies about the left. Same thing with Tim Pool. Although with Tim Pool, I think that Tim Pool, I think it's if somebody talked to Tim Pool, he can be pushed back to the left. But I think that Dave Rubin's too far gone, and he won't talk to a leftist because they will destroy him in a debate. And he's one of those folks that will sit there and say, just like Dennis Prager, they don't want to debate us because we'll destroy them. And then when they were like, hey, we'll take you on. Oh, no, we can't debate you. We want to debate the Democrat that stands for nothing and apologizes for being a liberal. Those are the ones we want to debate. Please. So anyway, okay, let's get to the next. Give me a second here. Let's get to Jimmy Dore because we're going to continue this from the Jimmy Dore show over that whole episode. Let's see, where is he? Let's see, is he over here? No, is he over here? Yeah, right there. Yeah, let's go to the Jimmy Dore show around that same time where he had Max Blumenthal on the show. I'm gonna get everything set up, and they talked about this whole thing that happened. So give me 2 seconds here, and we'll get started.
Right on again, right? So I just want to start out. So Aaron Mate, who works with the Gray Zone, he's been and this show have been the preeminent places to be debunking the Syrian pro-war narrative that Assad used gas attacks on his own people, and so we should bomb them and overthrow their government. So that's the same thing we did to Iraq, same thing we did to Libya. So we're trying to stop it in Syria, but the Young Turks are for it, right? And so
I don't like to pause to a chat line, but I need to correct something here. Well, not correct. Make something clear. What I said about Tim Pool is that I think that Tim Pool accidentally say things that are left of center that I think that if somebody can pull him back toward the left. That's what I was saying. I'm not saying I'm pro Tim Pool. In fact, I don't like Tim Pool. I just want to make that clear. So we'll go back to I just want to clear that misunderstanding. Okay.
So here, we have to break this story down again, right? So I just want to start out. So Aaron Mate, who worked with the Gray Zone, he's been and this show have been the preeminent places to be debunking the Syrian pro-war narrative that Assad used gas attacks on his own people, and so we should bomb them and overthrow their government. So that's the same thing we did to Iraq, same thing we did to Libya. So we're trying to stop it in Syria, but the Young Turks are for it, right? And so they keep saying that Aaron is working for Assad and he's an Assadist and he gets paid by the Russians. That's what well, here, I'll show you what they said.
I don't know what to say.
They said Aaron Mate yelled at me.
Aaron Mate, everyone cares what Aaron Mate has to say, right? The guy who denies that Syrian children were killed with chemical attacks. Yeah.
And
Fuck
gets
Aaron
paid by
Mate.
the-
Yeah, fuck you. Anyway, let's move on. Let's end the freaking pod. I can't.
Okay, see, that's what happened.
I can't stand that guy, and I can't stand the very intentional disinformation they put out there in regard to disgusting dictators around the world. The very people they.
She won't ever say what the disinformation is, ever. She'll never say what
Nobody
it is.
does.
But she just keeps fighting straw men. Here we go.
Seem to be working for it, to be quite honest with you. Let's move on.
All right, we're done.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
If Aaron Mate feels really warm in his Russian blanket, it's like, oh, but the Russian government favors me. You should be super proud of that. Way to go, Aaron. You did it. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Fuck
gets
Aaron
paid by
Mate.
the-
Yeah, fuck you.
gets
Anyway,
paid
let's
by the
move on. Let's
Russians.
end the freaking pod.
So there's few things as disgusting as that, right? That's just, they've gotten so used to McCarthy smearing people who they don't like. They did it to Julian Assange. They said he was working for someone else. And so here, even Roger Waters from Pink Floyd got involved. You want to hear what he had to say?
Yeah, of course, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
fucking stupid prick. All you have to do is a little bit of research to understand that all the research that has gone into the OPCW debunk, and the huge story that lies behind that has been completely ignored by the mainstream media because it's inconvenient. When you look at it compared with the measured arguments of Aaron Mate, who's a fine young journalist, and Joe, whatever his name is, the first president of the OPCW, who started...
Oh, Bustani. Jose Bustani, I believe?
Exactly, Bustani, exactly. Well, he turned up on the same day that Aaron Mate did, all right, to give evidence to a hearing of the Security Council into the whole story of Duma and the fact-finding mission and the falsification of the evidence by the OPCW and blah, blah. And it's there for anybody to read, chapter about. And it's since been attacked by people like that and others. And I've heard bad things about them for a long time. But they purport to be thinking young people who have an alternative. They're not.
Yeah,
they are the status quo, bolstering what the great American empire believed.
And so that's Roger Waters from Pink Floyd telling you that the Young Turks are repeating State Department pro-war propaganda. They are the status quo. They are not thinking people, and they don't care, and they're not journalists, that's for sure. And so Ana Kasparian then tweeted out a link to a clipped video that was deceptively edited by a guy that's what he does. He deceptively edits videos and tries to get traction on them. He does it to me. He does it to Glenn Greenwald. He does it to, now he's doing it to Aaron Mate.
He does it
To
to
me.
facts.
He did it to you too, Max?
Well, of course, it's an operation. So if you're an anti-imperialist and you're on the left, or you're disrupting the official narrative about these very sensitive issues of war and peace, this guy's going to come for you the same way Philip Cross will vandalize your Wikipedia page. So it's an operation.
So she pretends, she tweets out a doctored video, a deceptively edited video, and she says that calling Assad a hero qualifies being an Assadist. So here's the video. She's saying, claiming that Aaron Mate called Assad a hero. There's the video, the deceptively edited video first.
Assad is understandable.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to backtrack it for a second about what Max Blumenthal said about Wikipedia. If you ever check up the gray zone in Wikipedia and the way they describe Wikipedia, whoever wrote the thing on the gray zone, you could almost swear it was Sean Hannity or Mark Levin or someone like that, or Ben Shapiro could have written this about the gray zone. I mean, it is with such vitriol. That they wrote the thing about the gray zone. So anyway, it's kind of humorous. If you ever get a chance, just go ahead and check it out. So anyway, let me go ahead and we'll get it right back to where it needs to be. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, folks.
Vandalize your Wikipedia page. So it's an operation.
So she pretends, she tweets out a doctored video, a deceptively edited video, and she says that calling Assad a hero qualifies being an Assadist. So here's the video. She's saying, claiming that Aaron Mate called Assad a hero. There's the video, the deceptively edited video first.
Assad is understandably a hero because he's the face of the government that liberated those towns.
Right.
And people can't process that thought because Westerners have been so bombarded with propaganda aimed at demonizing Assad. This is always the case. Again, even though we've lived through the Iraq War, we lived through Libya, this happens. It's the same playbook every single time. In the name of human rights.
So that's the deceptive. They said it starts off with him saying
Assad is understandably a hero because he's the face of the government that liberated those towns.
So here's the full quote. Ready? Here we go.
I mean, you yourself said that it was creepy. There are a lot of Assad photos. There's nothing that I don't think newsworthy about that, though. And
There were a lot of Assad.
Yeah,
But again, you know what? I don't want to actually
I know.
disparage because again, to people who just lived through a war where the alternative is living under Saudi armed fanatics, Assad is understandably a hero because he's the face of the government that liberated those towns.
So, as Katie Helber pointed out, here's the video which Matthew Dimitri edited very deceptively. As you will see, Aaron says, two people who just lived through a civil war, where the alternative is living under Saudi armed fanatics. Assad is understandably a hero. Of course, Dimitri cuts out the beginning, and Ana Kasparian tweeted it out. And then she says the unedited video changes. So people were like, she says the unedited video changes nothing, and you know that. What? It'd be nice if you maybe address the second tweet in my thread where he literally minimizes Assad's brutality. What's your excuse for that one? Go. What in the... So Katie comes back and says, please stop projecting. I'm going to sleep. But if you haven't understood the difference between calling someone a hero and explaining why people see someone as a hero, I'm happy to explain it to you. Literally, all you had to do is admit you posted a dishonestly edited clip. You could have said it was an honest mistake. You undermine whatever argument you make because you're clearly not in good faith. And then she tweets out, this is embarrassing. Yeah, for you. For you. Genuine question, has Kasparian ever done a segment on the genocidal U.S. sanctions on Syria? No, they've never covered the OPCW whistleblowers either. Just like the rest, just like MSNBC. They're not.
Now, with the whole thing with Syria, I don't understand how anybody, again, I mean, I'm not an Assad apologist, but I don't understand how anybody, if you want to know, you want to be on the wrong side of the issue of Assad, then listen to John Bolton. John Bolton said, bring down Assad if you got to go and support Al-Qaeda. He called for the U.S. during the Trump years to side with Al-Qaeda, you know, Al-Qaeda, the people who brought down the Twin Towers, to go and side with Al-Qaeda to bring down Assad. Now, anything that's horrible that happens under Assad would be a gazillion times worse under Al-Qaeda. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure this out. Aaron Matei is correct. And, you know, and deep down, Ana Kasparian and people like that would know that Aaron Matei is correct. But they got to go and to the State Department line of the U.S. government. They got, you know, again, they're being bribed. They're being bribed by, you know, by the shitlibs. The shitlibs are the same kind of people as the neocons were during the Bush years. The difference is the neocons were 700 Club, Bible-thumping evangelical Christians, and the shitlibs are rainbow flag-loving, you know, good vibes that don't believe in anything other than, you know, some superficial sense of tolerance.
They're not going to cover it. Aaron Mate will cover it. He'll probably win another award for it. Of course not. In Ana Kasparian's defense, she might not even be aware of them. So he's responding to this. Has she ever done a segment on the genocidal U.S. sanctions in Syria? And Aaron says, of course not. In her defense, she might not even be aware of them. So it gets even worse, Max, before I bring you in. Ana Kasparian is now retweeting Bellingcat. So this is that anti-interventionist peace group that gave awards to people who were covering Syria correctly. And she's trying to say it's pro-Assad. We're pro-Assad, which is like saying people who were debunking the WMD's lie about Iraq were pro-Saddam Hussein. That's what Ana Kasparian's saying. That's what Bellingcat is. Now, Bellingcat, as we've shown you on this show many times, takes money directly from the U.S. government and NATO to tell lies about places like Syria, Libya, and anybody like Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, or me, if we're doing good work debunking the pro-war narrative, they're going to smear you because they're being paid to do propaganda. And they admit it. They admit that they get paid by the government, the NED, the National Endowment for Democracy. They admit it. They can't hide that, but nobody knows what that is, and so does. And obviously, Ana Kasparian has no idea. But there she is retweeting these garbage propagandists that we are here to out. We've been outing them on the regular, and she's retweeting them. So,
and for those that do not know what the National Endowment of Democracy is, it is a neoconservative think tank. And you know, in spite of the positive sounding good vibes names, there's particularly nothing democratic about the National Endowment of Democracy.
She then says he was invited to Syria by the Syrian Solidarity Movement. Take a look at who serves on their committee. He thinks I don't look into these things. It's incredible. It's just amazing. It's amazing. First, I wasn't in Syria on behalf of a pro-Assad group. I was in Syria on my own behalf doing journalism, a concept you can't grasp. She says, this is all you do all day long, Aaron. You're a small man who goes around attacking excellent journalists with bad faith smears. The projection is incredible. Yes, the projection is incredible. Incredible. Aaron says, let's recap. You attacked me on your show with a live-filmed McCarthyite rant. Then, rather than retract, doubled down with more lies on Twitter. Now you have the gall to claim that it's really me who's engaged in bad faith smears. The projection is incredible indeed. And I like what Chase says. He says TYT should get an IMAX screen for all that projection. So this is the kind of things that they will stoop to try to smear somebody. They'll first McCarthy smear them, say they're working for Assad instead of debunking a pro-war narrative, say that they're being paid directly by the Russians. I mean, is there anything scummier they could do than that? I mean, the next thing she's going to do is accuse Aaron of sexually harassing her. Because that's what she's going to try to do to me now. Because this is bothering them so much.
She kind of did.
Oh, she did? What did she say?
She accused him of harassing her. She accused him of harassment. So, I mean, you're halfway there.
Well, she's doing it to me because this is really driving her crazy that we're pointing out that they are doing repeating State Department talking points. They've always been pro-war. They were pro the Libyan war. They were pro-bombing Syria in 2014, 17. Jake said Trump didn't bomb Syria enough. So he's all for bombing brown people over at the Young Turks. They're all for it. They always are. And if you debunk a pro-war narrative, they will smear you like they did. And now they're so desperate. She's saying that he had harassed her. Well, watch this. She did this to me. She sent a DM to me last night. The last DM she sent me was April 14, 2016. Watching you guys kick ass right now. That was her last DM. But here's how she's trying to threaten me. And I'll tell you why this is a big mistake on her part. She says, I'm sure you remember when you constantly made inappropriate comments about how sexy you found me at work and even felt the need to ask me where I shop for my jeans so you can buy a pair for your wife so she dresses better.
Thank you.
That was followed by an apology card you wrote me for the degrading harassment. I've been holding back, letting you run your mouth nonstop as if you're some sort of warrior for what's good in the world. That's going to change. So now she's, instead of saying I'm paid by the Russians or saying I'm working for Assad, she's now going to try to pretend I sexually harassed her when I was at the Young Turks. So I remember I did ask her about, I wanted my pair of jeans like that for my wife. Apparently that's offensive to her. I don't know if you ever watched the Young Turks, but all they talk about in the second hour when I used to be there was the most outrageous sex stories in the world. So, and you know, I mean, I don't want to have to tell you that Cenk literally sat next to Anna and said if he was in government, he would make it legal for people to have sex with animals. He literally said that. I'm not making that up. That people tweeted that video out. So they've said that they wanted to be Howard Stern. Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian, they wanted to do the Howard Stern show, and they did for years. So now she has to make it up because we're coming at her on her journalism. So we're calling out her journalism and her McCarthyite smears, and this is how she responds. And I'll tell you this story. The story about that was followed by an apology card you wrote me for degrading harassment. Ana Kasparian used to dress when I worked there unbelievably inappropriately for a newsroom. She looked like she was going to a rave. The skirt, one time she came into the newsroom with a skirt so short. It wasn't a pencil skirt. It was like a fluffy one too, but so short that she bent over in front of me and I literally saw her ass and her thong. She's wearing a thong. I literally saw it. Everybody saw it. And I go, hey, Anna, nice news skirt. And everybody laughed. Like they laughed louder than I thought they would. And so it humiliated her. She got humiliated in the middle of the newsroom. And I did it. And I felt bad. At that time, we were friendly. And I was just busting her balls, right, for dressing like that in a newsroom. You're going to bend over and show me your ass? I think that's a little, I'm not offended, but I think that's a little risque. Imagine if I did that. I walked around showing my ass to everybody. So when I did that, so she got really mad. She got humiliated. Her face turned red. She tried to insult me back, and it just fell flat. And she looked, bad. And I felt bad for her. I didn't fight. I didn't want to make her feel that. But I just wanted to make a little joke. And all I said was, "Hey, Anna, nice news skirt." And everybody in the newsroom, because everybody saw how inappropriate she dresses. She used to dress, and everybody saw it. And so that's why I got such a huge laugh, and she was so humiliated. So I felt bad for her. So the next day, I wrote her a card saying, "Hey, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. That was inappropriate. You don't have to worry about that happening again. I won't comment on your clothes anymore." I should have said, no matter how fucking ridiculous.
You mean you'll stop commenting on her thong?
On her thong that I could see. This is how low they're stooping now, Max. She's gonna try and gin up some kind of bullshit like this, some kind of hashtag Me Too against me. And what she doesn't realize is that she's revealing that the reason why she's coming forward with this some kind of accusation isn't because it bothered her and it was true and that she was traumatized, and that she's trying to get back at me because I'm telling the world about their poor journalism. So she's literally, I'm going to fucking hashtag Me Too you because of what you're saying about my journalism. That's not how it's supposed to work. That's not supposed to be a retaliation for someone critiquing your work. I'm going to hashtag Me Too you for fucking, that's not how it's supposed to work. So you just need kind of screw the pooch there. But good luck. I'm sure you'll get some shit libs to retweet it for you. But I don't have a manager and I don't have a human resource department. So let's bring in Max. Now, Max, where would you like to take the conversation?
Yeah, this isn't really where I thought the conversation was going to go. I don't have the same history with these people. So I have no problem with Ana Kasparian's style of dress.
Let's talk to them.
We don't have a dress code at the Gray Zone. People can show up however they want. I do have a problem with this campaign of McCarthyite lies. And honestly, like I'm even hesitant to get in the gutter with these people. I mean, looking at her tweets today, and they also, they're directed at me, and everyone's a Russian agent.
Everybody's a Russian.
It really is like a trashy suburbanite version of the Steele dossier.
Well, I'm called a Russian occasionally too, so I guess I'm in good company. So there's that. I stuck around just long enough. Just the expression on his face was funny. He's like, "Holy cow!" They asked me that question. And it's like, why did they ask me that question? That was funny. But anyway, there's just too much a smearing going on. That's the go-to. To smear everybody as Russian. They show you how wrong it is to do this whole anti-Russian thing. You know why George W. Bush is friends with the liberals now? And notice the pattern. Liberals rehabilitate past Republican presidents. Republicans never rehabilitate a past Democrat president. And the thing about it is that actually Jimmy Dore said it once, and it's true. They hated Ralph Nader because they think that he gave us George W. Bush. Now these same liberals, they love George W. Bush, and they still hate Ralph Nader. Now, and there are even some liberals that hate Ralph Nader, whose politics are almost identical to Ralph Nader, that still hates Ralph Nader. They're like, oh, but George W. Bush, he's okay now. And they just rather, they want to do that just to own Trump. Now, I don't want to make any excuses for Trump. I mean, Trump didn't have to happen. If you want to blame somebody for Trump, blame Bill and Hillary Clinton. They convinced them to run in 2016. I mean, 2015, they were still friends with the guy. So, and I can guarantee you, if it would have been Bernie Sanders who would have gotten the nomination, I can guarantee you that Hillary Clinton, Bill and Hillary Clinton would still be friends with Donald Trump to this day, because I bet you my bottom dollar that they would actually do what they could to assist Donald Trump to put a stop to Bernie Sanders from being president. No matter what, some people in my audience may think of Bernie Sanders today, and I'm a Bernie bro in recovery. I mean, I've kind of walked away from the Bernie cult. But the point I'm trying to make is that the shit libs would rather, some of these shit libs, I'm talking about the ones who are loyal to the Clintons, the ones who, the Pete Buttigieg, the Beto O'Rourke's, the Joe Bidens, the Barack Obamas. They'd rather have Donald Trump in the White House than Bernie Sanders. Even now, they would. Even the cackling bitches from the View, those Karens on the View, would rather have Donald Trump in the White House. And anybody disagree with me, they're just disagreeing with me just to be contrarian. Deep down, it's true. Because they're closer to Meghan McCain than they are, Susan Sarandon. And it's true. Anyway, let's see here. We're gonna try this one. This is from Heartlands Media. I saw this yesterday. I decided to play a little bit of this because I think it's valid. So what's being said here, and I'll share some words momentarily.
So there's some drama at TYT. Now, this has been developing over the week, right? And it's been interesting to see the overall fallout that the hosts of TYT are having with their audience. And it has to deal with conflicting opinions, as well as the transgender movement in this country. And look, I have a lot of disagreements and anger towards TYT. I never liked how they smeared Jimmy Dore or Aaron Monte or Max Blumenthal. Still sore about that. Furious about that. But I've seen some of Ana Kasparian's recent takes, some of her opinions, and I understand where she's coming from. However, it's okay for us also to sit back, kind of smile, and say, wow, everyone who, all the TYT stands who used to call Jimmy Dore and everyone else right-wingers look pretty foolish right now. Case in point, I want to bring this up here. Shout out to Nick from RBN. All TYT stands who used to call Jimmy Dore and everyone else right-wingers are looking dumb as F right now. Ana Kasparian tweets this out. The civil rights movement did not use the same strategies of the trans movement. They didn't barricade speakers they disagreed with in a classroom for 3 hours. They persuaded through nonviolence and showing America their humanity. I don't know, Anna, you need to open up a book a little bit here and there, but it's all right. But there's been this huge fallout that's been going on. And I want to give a huge shout out to Turncoat Don, who's been able to more or less really bring up a clipped video segment of Ana Kasparian, sharing her perspectives and points of view. Now, again, this video is timestamped, and this link is in the show notes, in the description box below for the live stream show. I will post a link when this video is clipped. But I want to talk about really how she's talking about, more or less, how she's been changing her opinion and understanding the other side in good faith, which says a lot. It truly does. So let's play that.
All of these issues are way more complicated than the way they're being portrayed in partisan media. And so what I want to do is actually understand those complexities, but here's the other thing. Understand the other side in good faith, okay? Because I think that there are some stereotypes that the left has kind of bought into about what the arguments are on the other side. And, it doesn't make us sharper to misrepresent what the other side is actually saying. It actually makes us weaker. If you understand what their arguments are, it'll then allow you to reflect on what your own weaknesses might be in regards to the arguments that you're making. And then one other thing, and this was an unexpected outcome that I was talking to my husband about just last night. I've been a lot happier lately, like a lot happier.
And I understand why she's becoming a little bit more happier. Look, let's be very clear here. Especially after 2020, TYT kind of attached itself to the social justice warrior industrial complex, being triggered by anything or anyone that was critical of the squad, the movement, or how they were running their policies, or how they were taking care of political issues in Washington, D.C. And again, channels like Jimmy Dore, Hard Lens, RBN, Eco House, Convo Couch, Russell Brand, Joe Rogan, all of us were caught in the crosshairs and sights of TYT as they deemed us as right-wingers or bad people, for even talking to conservatives or libertarians, or even progressives who were walking away from the Democratic Party. You see, when you attach yourself to the social justice warrior industrial complex, and I've seen this before, they're very puritanical. You have to agree with what the overall message is and not ever once ask any questions. And I want to bring up Hard Lens Media's example, because we dealt with it in the streets, okay? Back in the day when we had a Galaxy S7 cell phone covering protests and movements. And again, this is why I've said in the show, I really don't respect the majority of activists who are out there protesting. There's only very few people who I call the dauntless few. You got Rome from RBN, being consistent. You got Misty Winston, extremely consistent, especially for advocating for Julian Assange. You got Jose Vega and his team calling out these politicians. See, they are the exception. They have followed through, and most importantly, the key word is being consistent. When Daniel and I covered those Trump protests, they always start somewhere in downtown Chicago. Rally there, all the people there smiling with their signs, and then they go ahead and protest right in front of Trump Tower, but not in front of the building. See, there's a river separating Trump Tower and where the protesters would meet up. And they'd be herded into a little cage. And after a while, Daniel and I really started asking questions. Is this all what they're going to do? All these activists and social justice groups start somewhere in downtown Chicago and then march to Trump Tower? Eventually, we did ask some of the leaders, like, hey, are you going to protest in front of some of the senator office buildings in downtown Chicago, or any of the Democratic Party offices downtown here in Chicago? Because they're not really following through on their end. They're cheering for all of you, but dismissing any of your concerns. To which a lot of the movement leaders would be dismissive or say, no, we have to do this because Trump's the problem. But eventually, Daniel and I were dismissed, ignored, called sexist, misogynist, racist. It's true. Whenever we covered a lot of those socialist groups, and I mean no disrespect to socialists, boy, oh boy, just even trying to just do a coverage of an event or a town hall, it's like pulling teeth, like so paranoid and scared. Are you guys a conservative media outlet? That's what we would get a lot. I remember one person said, oh, you guys are covering this just to make yourselves look good or profit off our name. And I was like, no. Because one of our main goals back in the day before we even got on radio was, hey, shining a light on people who are trying to do good. All those activist groups and organizers silent after 2020. Nothing but frauds. Continuing on, though.
And I think it's because once you actually, and look, I want to make the distinction and draw a caveat. I'm not talking about far right, militia members. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about just mainstream conservatives, Republicans. But once you actually understand what their arguments are or where they're coming from, it's a lot more difficult to be hyperbolic about things, right? And so you kind of start seeing.
And also to Carl's point on Rockford Kit, they are losing their audience. Yeah, because Anna, it's going to be brought up here. And again, shout out to Turncoat Don, who was able to clip this video up. I will post this link not only in the live stream chat, but I will post it when this video is clipped as well.
see the world around you for what it really is. And there's a certain amount of fear that kind of starts to dissipate, a certain amount of like hyperbolic thinking that starts to go away, and you start to see things a lot more clearly. And the world isn't as messed up as people would have you believe. And that's a good thing. Now, some people might get super offended at me saying that because they've completely bought into the hyperbolic thinking and they think the world's coming to an end. And there are terrible things happening. I don't want to minimize that, but we need to be realistic about what's actually transpiring in the country.
And also shout out to George Johnson and Election Chat. Now she sees the subtle differences in people on the right. Now look, I've spoken to Republicans and Libertarians, and there's a lot of things I don't agree with, especially on some economic policy issues. But there's a lot of things that we have common ground on. And I'd rather speak to people with different perspectives and points of view because maybe they might have a perspective that I never considered before. Because I want to live in a world where everyone's agreeing, oh, yes, everything's great, everything's hunky-dory. And that's the problem that TYT puts itself into, is that they put themselves with a group that's extremely puritanical in how they run their operations.
And for areas where we need improvement or different policy solutions, we should actually have good faith debates about it and come up with those solutions. And I think that the current discourse is standing in the way of that. So that's the other thing. I mean, I think that the left has completely, and they'll deny this, but I mean, just go to Twitter right now. They've like abandoned economic policies and instead hyper-focused on incredibly divisive, like identity-related issues.
That's something that TYT helped foster. But again, let's have democracy in the chat. I wonder how you, the audience, are going to vote. What is more important, identity politics and pronouns, or goddamn it, the economy? Type one of, my pronouns are important, identity politics are important. Gosh darn it, or I'll do a protest oath fest. I type two like, no man, the economy's important, man. I'm broke. It costs $300 just to go outside. I wonder how you're going to vote, my lovelies.
Right?
Okay, let me stop there. When it comes to the identity politics versus economics, I'm accused of being a class reductionist, but I will argue that if you're a leftist, whether you focus on class issues or whether you focus on ID poll, that pretty much a leftist worth their mustard are going to be class reductionists at the end of the day. I'm a blend. I think that most of the time in this day and age is class warfare you got to focus on. There are pockets of moments where you have to focus on the identity politics where it's necessary too. Like for example, our criminal justice system is racist as fuck. It is racist as fuck. So yes, identity politics, you got to go and stop the police brutality. You got to stop it at the top with ending capital punishment because of who's on death row is predominantly African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans. Those are the ones that are on death row more than anybody else. And if you're white on death row, you're probably poor. And here's the thing: there should be nobody on death row. Not a damn person should be on death row. I don't care who you are, but the death penalty exists to get rid of the people that society view as the most detestable. It is the last sign of organized lynching. So damn right, when I look at capital punishment, I look at that. I'm like, my ID poll gets triggered in that regard. When I look at healthcare, that's where I'm class reductionist. Now, some people think, okay. Some people think that my ring light. They're not thinking about my ring light. Some people think that universal health care is woke. Some people think, and there's not an issue that's more class reductionist than healthcare. But some people out there think that and the reason they think it's woke, they're like, oh, here's one more free thing to give to the minorities. Everybody needs healthcare. Everybody. And Tim Black said it best, that he thinks that the reason why we don't have universal health care, and I agree with him, I think the reason why we don't have universal health care because people are scared that Black people are going to get health care, free health care. They don't want to give something free to Black people. And that's what it comes down to. I do think that there is a little bit of racism involved as to why we don't have universal health care. And they would rather, these white folks would rather die not having universal health care than to have something that's for everybody. Because they for some reason they were like, oh, it's just a handout. It's just a handout. It's just one more free stuff. A handout. Roads. That's a handout. The post office. That's just another free stuff handout. I mean, this is the kind of thinking that's been bred to us in the last 50 years of neoliberalism. That just the most basic thing that functions in society is a handout. And so you can be both for class warfare, and when it comes right down to it, you can also be for solidarity with the disenfranchised that have been historically mistreated, and I will argue to say that they're still being mistreated. But I would say that we're all being mistreated by capitalism. And some of those rich fucks in the 1%, they're not all white. Some of them are African American. Some of them are Asian. And the fact that anybody who's a billionaire, no matter what color they are, if you're a billionaire, you're a scumbag. I think all billionaires are scumbag, no matter what background they're from. If you're a billionaire, I don't like you. That's what it comes down to. So, and those on top, and I've always said this, they may even disagree with each other on the Republicans and the Democrats, the right and the left on the top. They may disagree with each other on the culture war, but they got each other's back, and they look at all of us down there fighting amongst ourselves, and they're thinking, the joke is on them. Yeah, they're sitting there arguing about abortion and gay marriage and transgender rights and all this welfare and all of that, and we're just over here on the top just making more money. And that's what it comes down to. So and what I'm going to do before I get to the chat lines right now, I'm going to play one last video, and it's from he's a really funny individual. He's called Mark of the Beast. And I mean, when some of the stuff he does is just funny as hell. So let me go ahead and get everything set up here, and we will hold on here a second. Let me get everything set up. Give me 2 seconds here. Okay. All right. Let's see. And we'll get everything set up, and we'll be in good standing. And as I call it, essentially a good way to end on a final note before I get to the what you call it, the chat lines and final message before concluding. So let me just do this here real quick. I forgot to put this up here, and I think it's a great way to kind of conclude on a comedic note. Let's see. Hopefully, even though I misspelled, hopefully it did it correctly. That's great. All right, give me 2 seconds here. All right, and we'll get underway momentarily. It's already playing. Shame on them. Okay. Here it is. And we'll get a sound in a second. There's going to be a sound. There's a way around it. Damn damn it.
I'm so impressed Emma and Matt are able to speak to Brandon without worrying they might offend him. Anyways, Karen, am I right? Oh my Jesus Christ. Anyway, solidarity to all trans allies. They're just making a joke about Anna.
You know what's interesting? Emma Vigeland used to say, I've known Birthing Person for years. She's not a bigot. But Emma no longer offers that defense.
I think there's definitely been like a shift in her politics. Obviously, this is like a very different, like I'm on a different path, I think, right now, politically, clearly.
I mean, we did a video, Anna is not transphobic, and the truth is that
we did. I did not name the video.
Oh, I will just say this. People aren't one thing their whole lives. 15 years ago, Birthing Person was a young, Hispanic-passing Armenian woman. Today, she's blonde. Her foundation is notably lighter than the rest of her. She's lightened her hair. She's lightened her eyebrows. She's changed her nose. And she's older and richer and married. She literally changed. Demographically, if you look at her stats, you would say, this person is a conservative. You know, Albert Einstein was a little bit of a racist and a sexist in 1922. When he was a white, world-famous scientist teaching at one of the most prestigious universities in the world, he was a little bit insensitive. But 10 years later, his demo changed. He was suddenly a member of a persecuted minority that only narrowly escaped assassination and an immigrant who faced some discrimination here in America. And surprise, surprise, he was no longer racist. In fact, he supported the civil rights movement. When his demographics changed, he changed. Demographics is destiny in some very real sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't agree. I have spoken about like this kind of thing at length. I guess, you know, I don't really feel like I have to respond to everything, to be honest with you. I don't need to, I'm not responsible for other people.
You're not TYTHR, that's a sound check.
Yeah, a lot of people are clamoring for Emma to be more critical of Birthing Person, a la Hassan. But I put myself in her shoes. What if somebody I liked? What if Leah? Remember when they were doing that photo shoot for the tourism department or something? And Yeji was getting all the attention, and Leah gave her the bitchy eye roll. What, do you think I'm going to call her out on it? Hell no. Oh, wow. Here's Cenk responding to the Benny person. One, she quit, so she is too pure for us. Two, she is an unhinged person who has called me evil, racist, transphobe, and other endless insults. Wow, what a level-headed person that I could learn from and grow by talking to. Great idea. Of course. I don't know, the people expecting the TYT to collapse, it might even grow if they shift to the right. That's where all the money is. There's a ton of billionaire money on that side.
I'm not super concerned about humorous names like bonus hole.
Are you saying you're not going to let the term bonus hole shape your entire politics?
It's hard to believe, but yes.
God. What if we throw in a Latinx?
I didn't think of it at the time, but that is rather obscure knowledge. That a small group of randos in a foreign country suggested bonus hole. Like, who would even be privy to that information? Like, that's who Birthing Person is hanging out with now?
Let's not, within this current moment, flatten or dilute what the civil rights movement was, too. Like, the civil rights movement was a violent, bloody struggle, and the narrative that is painted by like current mainstream mythology is that it was just the nonviolent element, but there were massive resistance. There was violence by the state on Black people. There was violent resistance, and it it's a fiction to say that it's just through like nonviolence.
Okay, on the topic of civil rights, we can get into the weeds if you like. We can do that. But let's just cut to the chase. Why don't people use the N-word? There's 350 million people. There's 350 million people in the United States, including 70 million Trump supporters and millions of edgy comedians.
But dude, it is crazy. I bet a lot of people that have deficiencies and stuff like that,
What do you mean?
immediately think you're their guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could see somebody with like a vitamin deficiency or like severe, DNA deficiency or something, immediately being like a chromosome deficiency, being like, oh, this is our guy, this is our mayor, this is our Wizard of Oz. You don't think that at all?
No, my point is just there's millions of edgy comedians, millions of edgy podcasters, millions of edgy people who will say anything. They'll use the R word, the F word, the C word, all kinds of ethnic slurs. But all these edgy people generally stay away from the N-word. Now, was it because they were persuaded in the arena of ideas? Or do they simply not want to incur the potential financial and or physical penalty? I believe fear of incurring a physical penalty plays some role in regulating behavior. I just do. I mean, is it not? I don't know, psychologically, I think it does. You kiss me and stop me from shaking, and I need you today, oh, Mandy. You came and you gave without taking, but I sent you away, oh.
Yeah, that's Mark of the Beast. He always provide kind of a humorous take on things. So, and the reason I played it up there because Ana Kasparian, birthing person, and Emma Vigeland are having kind of disagreement right now. They're good friends, and I don't like either one of them. I don't like Ana Kasparian, and I don't like Emma Vigeland. I would say that as far as the arguments are concerned on this whole trans issue, Emma Vigeland's correct. And it comes down to what I was saying earlier. It comes down to human rights. Equality is not a special right. Equality is not a special right. Equality is not a special right. And now, if you disagree whether trans women should be in sports or not, I'm not going to cancel you for it. I agree with her. Trans women should be allowed to participate in sports. If you disagree with me, I'm not going to cancel you out for it. But it comes down to human rights, and there are bumps in the road toward equality. There are going to be bumps, and there are going to be complicated situations and all that, and everything, and I think sometimes Anna's is a human being like everybody else, and you run across a situation. Okay, Anna, some people are calling you a racist or a transphobe or whatever. Get over it. I mean, I have been called much worse in my life. I have been called much worse. No, I don't think you're becoming Dave Rubin. But people are shifting their eyebrows a little bit because you're going on Ben Shapiro's program and you're buddying up with a guy. I mean, and we know you're not going to become Ben Shapiro. We know that. But, the Young Turks have kind of taken a turn to the right. And that Katzenberg money kind of started it all. In 2016, as I said, you couldn't tell me anything wrong when it came to the Young Turks. But Young Turks are kind of, taking some steps and directions, and of course, yeah, Dave Rubin's taking the worst direction. There's no doubt about that. I mean, as much as I have a problem with the Young Turks now, it isn't as bad as the Rubin report, obviously. But, MSNBC made for hipsters. That's what they became. They became MSNBC made for hipsters. And so I'm disappointed. We'll see how everything turns out. I'm wondering with this happening, and I'm not going to cancel Ana Kasparian. out if she's, whatever position that may seem mildly away from political orthodoxy or whatever. I've had positions where that some people might find cringe occasionally. So, we're all human beings. Nobody's the same. Nobody is the same. Nobody's going to come to the same conclusion about life or what have you. And to suggest that we have to all be uniform is where I have a problem with the majority report. They expect everybody to have uniform, same opinions. And that's where I have a problem. But getting, so did the Young Turks. And the Young Turks, they're getting bit in the ass over this. I suspect that at some point it's going to happen to the majority report. I'm not going to beat up on David Pakman so much because although David Pakman has the same mentality, he is a little more free thinking as far as he doesn't go for the extreme cancel culture sort of thing the way that the Young Turks and the majority report people tend to. Although he does do a lot of Russian baiting. I'm like. Suggesting that there's too much of a Putin flavor in the Cornel West campaign for president, and suggesting that Breonna Joy Gray and Glenn Greenwald are right wing and all of that. I mean, it's like, shame on you, David. That's why I don't watch your program anymore. Once upon a time, 10 years ago, you couldn't tell me anything different, but now. Shame on you, David. So anyway, all right, chat lines. Well, let's go with the announcements first. If I do the chat lines, here's the announcements. Midnight tonight is, today is the 8th. So midnight will start technically on the 9th. So at midnight, if you can, drop on by Extra Booyah, because when you drop on by Extra Booyah, guess what happens? You'll get a chance to see the Secret Show. And the Secret Show comes on every night. They're back on the air, and it comes on every night, every Saturday night / early Sunday morning at midnight. And that's hosted by Uncle Warren and Miss Jimi Sunderland. And that brings me to my next announcement momentarily. Jimmy and I are going to have a new show very, very, very soon called Braglands. And we're working on a banner right now. And I saw the banner, but I'm just not sure if I'm at liberty to put it out just yet. But anyway, we're working on a show. It should be out in the late summer and probably late August, early September. We're going to try to work on a time. And it should be on between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock every Friday evening. That's the initial plans. It may change, but that's the initial plan. So Jimi Sunderland and I from KRTD Media will be having our new show every Friday evening from 5 till 7. That is the plan. Tonight, there's going to be the Secret Show with Uncle Warren and Jimi Sunderland. So be sure to watch their program and be sure to like, comment, and say hello on the chat line and all of that. They always have a great show, and they're a great team together. And with regard to Jimmy, and on the description box below, be sure to follow her on Twitch and on YouTube, because she's trying to get up to 100 subscribers on her platform. So she can go back to doing her program again. So I'm trying to get, I told her I was going to try to do what I can for her program to come back by urging everybody to follow her on Twitch and YouTube. So there is that. So anyway, let's go ahead and I said hi to Miguel earlier, but I'm going to say hello to Miguel again. And Snipe Hunter, hello, how are you doing? And thank you, Snipe Hunter, for the audio. As I'm getting a new computer, so I'm trying to get that straightened out. So let's see, we're going to go scroll this thing down. That's another thing that's going to be great when I get a new computer. The scrolling is going to be so much smoother. Let's see here. Hello. Around the World with D's and Friends says hello, everyone. Hello, Dolores. And Dolores will probably be on this show, I guess, sometime in July or in August. We're working on that right now. If you get a chance, do follow her on Twitter and follow her on YouTube. Yes. Miguel says hi, and I am going to scroll down a little bit further. That's a lot of chitter chatter on my part. Okay, since Ana Kasparian is not a leftist, says Apris Scoop. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name. Is it possible to take your premise and question seriously? I'm afraid. Well, the reason I'm saying that is those that throw stones at glass houses. She smeared Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore. She smeared Aaron Mattei and Max Blumenthal, and the Young Turks that smeared, Breonna Joy Gray, and anybody that kind of stand against this narrative and has an independent thought. That's not to be tolerated. And so they smeared these people as Russian assets, as right wingers, as Putin puppets, crypto megas or whatever they want to go and call us, it's tiresome. They do this to Kim Iverson. They do this to Combo Couch. They do this to anybody that dares, challenges them, So we're going to scroll down a little bit further. Yes, the young fucks. That's what, referring to Roger Waters. He referred to them as the young fucks one time. Let's see, Bernie brought people together. He did, and unfortunately, and he said it. Unfortunately, he just he said unfortunately he just shepherded people. He just a shepherd for the Democratic Party. I would say that he unintentionally shepherded people into the Democratic Party. He was trying to raise an awareness. He was trying to start a movement. He hit a brick wall. I wish he would have pushed back further. And if he can't push back further, I have to kind of look for alternatives myself. I've been too patient all my life. Aaron Mattei says super plantato man. Aaron Mattei said Aaron does not does put out tons of conspiracies. This is true. I'm not a fan of his. I don't think he puts out. I mean, I don't agree with every single position that comes out of the gray zone, or anybody for that matter. I mean, or anybody. I mean, even when I was listening to Kyle Kalinske nonstop years ago, there were times I didn't agree with him. So I don't agree with anybody 100% of the time, but, I do think that Aaron Mattei is a great journalist. So, I appreciate most of the work he does. So, alrighty. You don't think that Tim Pool is too far gone? He's making tons of money off the right wing. What I meant to say by that was that he comes across as less sincere about the politics of his right-wing conversion than, let's say, Dave Rubin. And they both don't do, to me, a particularly positive job of it. They sound like they're just acting or just barking out talking points. I mean, when Charlie Kirk is spouting his bullshit, it sounds real. I guess maybe Candace Owens believes it now, but she's, that Karen's not important anyway. Tim Pool's too dumb to be recovered. he doesn't have a lot of depth. I will say that. Yeah. Hey, Willie. Hey, Extra Boya. I put out the good word for the secret show tonight. Let's see. Who pays the gray zone? Patreon. Regular folks that likes the gray zone. I don't see them. I don't see them ever attack Assad. I don't see them. I don't agree with the war against them, but they do seem to be very pro-Assad. But that's my point. A lot of people think that if you don't explicitly denounce Assad and that you're somehow pro-Assad. I don't want the alternative in Syria. So if that makes me pro-Assad, he's secular. I would rather deal with secular, I mean, look what happened with Gaddafi was gone in Libya. Slavery returned. And I would argue that that's Gaddafi, who was kind of questionable in some ways. I would argue, looking back in hindsight, he had the most prosperous country in Africa when he was their leader, Colonel Gaddafi, and I would argue he was Africa's Joseph Broz Tito, Field Marshal Tito. He was to Africa what Field Marshal Tito was to Eastern Europe. Serena Shem, a war also give to Jackson Hinkle. The war is garbage. Laughing out loud. I haven't seen Jackson Hinkle in quite a while. Okay. Oh yeah, we talked about the Facebook things. I made a Facebook friend while I was doing the podcast tonight. So, all right. We talked about that. We talked about that as well. I just sent you. I just sent a message. Hopefully, you read it on the stream. Let me check. Let me check on my Facebook. See if there's a message. Maybe I'm misreading that. So let me check here real quick, and I'm going to log off very shortly. Very shortly. Let me see what we got here. I think Scotty wants me to read this. So let me read this, what Scotty said. So I've been seeing this whole drama with TYT this week over Cenk and Anna's comments over trans activists, and it's all just real funny for me to see this. Same people get surprised by Cenk and Anna's behaviors. First of all, this is not a shift to the right for Cenk and Anna. From day one, to their core, they have been liberal Democrats with the mission to take over the Democratic Party, or at the very least, push the party to the left. And I think that was their hopes, and maybe that still might be. That's me saying that, inserting that, which was always doomed to fall, knowing that the party's corporate structure and how it crushes progressive opposition to the party. They only somewhat embraced socialism during both Sanders presidential run, and Anna had a friendship with the late Michael Brooks, who she credits with helping her embrace socialism. But they never been serious about the activism or about stepping outside the two-party duopoly. See Justice Democrats. Second, TYT has a history of smearing people who sees the competition in the indie political media space, especially if they used to work for a TYT. Just look at the case with Jimmy Dore. Forget what you think about Dore. The way in which they smeared Dore during Force the Vote and tried to do a fake Me Too scandal. Let's not forget about how they attempted to do a McCarthyite smear on Aaron Matei by implying he was supporting dictators and getting paid by Russia. These same people are distancing themselves from TYT, the Humanist Report, Benny, the Source, Emma Vogelin had no problem when they were smearing actual anti-imperialists like RBN, Harlan's Media, The Gray Zone, Julian Assange, Centra, supporting imperialism, Russia gating, engaging in Cold War rhetoric, and being racist, sexist, and transphobic. They sat idly by and said and did nothing. But when they are on the wrong side of the culture war issue is when they decide to have principles. They are unprincipled, weak, and impotent liberals, but I wouldn't call them extremists like due dissidence implied. Let's see. In conclusion, this is not a shift to the right. This is a ploy to gain money, but it is also a way to massage a fragile ego to the two people, Cenk and Ana, who were the gatekeepers of the online left discourse. And now that they don't have control of the narrative and discourse anymore because the online left is fragmented into different factions, they are desperately trying to find a way to stay relevant. Agreed. Very much agreed. And I'm going to write down, just in case he's not online, agreed and read on the air at the end. There we go. So hopefully he'll see that. Okay, so let me get right back into this here. I try to be fair and let everybody have their say as much as possible. And Snipe Hunter, you're correct about Ariel Scarcella. She's basically a female Dave Rubin. Let's see. Ed Heller and Jerry Venstalis from Chicago Corner will be on tonight. I can't wait. That'll be really cool. Do you get a new camera? I did not get a new camera yet. I am going to go and get I'm just going to get a new laptop in a few weeks. I desperately need a new laptop. And that's, budget wise and everything I just made the decision it's going to be for what I need to do right now, unless I get bigger on my platform. So probably when I get like 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers, I'll get a desktop at that point. Let's see what's wrong with Bellingcat. I saw them do some great reporting. Well, I mean, they apparently they smear Max Blumenthal and the Gray Zone people. So that seems to be a problem there with some folks. Those people you mentioned, Combo Cash, Aaron Blumenthal, are all smeared themselves. Anti-vaxxers. Kim is a right-winger, etc. Kim Iverson. She's sort of like Tulsi Gabbard. Kim Iverson is sort of like Tulsi Gabbard in the sense that it's like she has some good takes, she has some bad takes. Where I think that people get confused with Kim Iverson. Kim Iverson she lived all her life in Idaho. She lives in California now. She has, because of the part of the country she lives in, I think that even though she came to the conclusion of going to the left, she came there with libertarian baggage that comes from her environment. And that gives the appearance sometimes of looking kind of right-leaning. I kind of suffer from that living in the South. I have very libertarian leanings, if you probably notice. I mean, when it comes to free speech, and free speech should be a leftist position. It used to be a leftist position. Being opposed to cancel culture used to be leftist. When the right wing claims that they're against cancel culture, they're against them being canceled, and they're against their free speech being taken away. But the free speech that they're in favor of their own free speech, and the right wing are the ones, most right wingers are the ones that wants to take away the free speech of the left. But they get away with being accused of being principled and for free speech. And I even had somebody who should know better telling me that they never known of any conservatives favoring cancel culture. I'm like, they invented the damn thing. And then if you're a leftist and you say you're against cancel culture, they think you're some kind of reactionary. And it's left-wing really in its heart of hearts and in its rightful place, it is left wing to be against cancel culture. It is left wing to be for free speech, absolutism, and that even includes points of view that you will find the most repugnant. So that's, and I think that's kind of where she's coming from in a way. Now she's got some positions that I don't agree with. She's not particularly pro-trans, and I have a problem with that. But then again, I'm not going to cancel her out. I just passionately disagree with her on that. I think that maybe in about 10 years she will probably evolve. People do evolve differently. There was many times. 20 years ago, there were progressives that did not support same-sex marriage, that nobody holds anything against now because it's safe to be for same-sex marriage. It's still a little bit of taboo for people to say, I'm for trans rights. And so, I think that's where that comes from in that regard. As far as the vaxxer, people misunderstand the COVID policy. I get it from both sides when it comes to, I'm not going to talk too much about COVID because I don't want to be canceled by YouTube, but I get it from both sides when it comes. The shit libs think that I am some anti-vaxxers because I think it ought to be voluntary, whether you ought to take the vax or not. My body, my choice. I don't think it ought to be mandated. I supported the Canadian truckers a year and a half ago from a worker's point of view. And it does not make you a damn Nazi to do this sort of thing. The Communist Party of Canada supported the Canadian truckers, for example. When it comes to the vaccine, to me, mandatory vaccination is not the issue. Getting treatment should be the issue. Free health treatment, not just for COVID, but for everything. Make healthcare free for everybody. Problem solved. This is why other countries were able to get over COVID, because when they were able to get over COVID, because they were prepared for it because they already had universal health care. United States being what it is, they were not going to have universal health care. After Great Britain got bombed to death during World War II, they had a national health service. We had COVID. Our politicians hate us, and they don't care if we die. It shows you where priorities, So, I'm going to do a 4th of July issue of the Willy Bragg show, but one of the reasons I'm not patriotic is you just take a look at the healthcare system. How can you be patriotic when you got a government that don't particularly care about you and me and that person and that person? So, it's hard to love a country that refuses to love its people back. So I tell people, I don't have a problem with patriotism per se. I do say fuck nationalism. Anyway, and then on the right, I say, my body, my choice. I took the vaccine. I'm jabbed. And they're telling me I'm a follower because, and I'm a pawn of the first time they give it down by pharmaceuticals, taking advantage of consumers because there's a culture war, right-wing culture war issue out of the vaccines. But under normal circumstances, they wouldn't give a flying fuck about what they do to people as far as gouging prices. And my solution is to nationalize through the Defense Production Act of 1950 to nationalize the goddamn pharmaceutical industry. So go ahead and do that. So anyway, yes. Thank you for reading my post, Willie, and thank you for being patient. I caught that on the chat line, and I try to watch out for everybody. So okay, Miguel, I'm not saying that I'm patriotic per se. I'm just saying there's a difference between patriotism, which is a healthy normative love for a country, And I mean, I'm not going to sit there and fault somebody for being proud of being an American. There are certain things that are okay about being an American, but people will tell me, well, you don't love America, go and leave it. Well, it's kind of hard to move out of this country at the moment, but if I could, a country I think I would like to live in, if I live outside the United States, I could live in Portugal. I think I would. In fact, I'm planning to visit Portugal in April, next April. So I could live in Portugal and be happy about that. And so we'll see what happens. I'll be in Portugal in April. So I'll let y'all know more about that as time goes on. If I am in Portugal in April, I'll obviously be live streaming there too about the Carnation Revolution and their 50th anniversary. And where is Choosy Heretics chooses carnations now when you need them? He would love for me mentioning that, I'm sure. I want to be Lee Greenwood. Oh, I'm proud to be an American. Okay. Let's see. Well, we have to look at the positives. Yeah, positives. Every country has its positives, and every country, has a lot of drawbacks. I'm not a cultural relative. Every country have done bad things. Every country's done good things. So Portugal, nice. Yeah, I have developed an appreciation with Portugal. If the cost of living was lower or low, I could live in the UK. UK would be ideal for me as far as they just need to reverse the Thatcher crap that Thatcher incurred on the people they're still living under. And make Britain the way it used to be in the 70s. That would be awesome. I love 1970s Great Britain. I see it all the time on old TV shows and movies and all that. And it just looks fascinating. So anyway, so folks, it's been a little bit past 2 hours. The opposite of what happened last week on my show. Last week I was extremely tired and everything. I'm actually the opposite of tired today. So if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, comment anyway. We will have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are in fact the muckrakers of our time. And remember to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell on YouTube, and follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Twitch. Also follow me on Rumble. I'm going to jumpstart that Rumble channel at some point, so I just need more followers. Please follow me on Rumble as well. I have one video there, but I'm planning to put more videos. I promise that day is going to happen. It's going to happen. Also, what else am I going to say? Yes. And since I'm in partnership right now as we speak with KRTD Media, please do so. Go ahead and follow them on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch and Twitter, and support them and support all of independent media, and reject corporate media, because corporate media has absolutely nothing at all to offer us, not a damn thing. So anyway, I'm going to say this to one person, so I don't want to leave anybody behind. Hey, how are you doing? Deregulate this now. And I am about ready to log out, folks. I will see you all next week on the Willy Bragg show, Saturday night feature, but you will also see me, on and off during the week. So, all right, y'all take care. I will see y'all later on. See y'all at go to Extra Boya, follow him, watch the Secret Show. I'll be there in there at that time too. So take care, folks. And the music I'm playing right now, Ken Arrego is his name. He's going to be a guest on the show at some point. We've been talking about it. He's a great musician. He does a lot of great new wave revival. So, if you like Devo and you like Wire and you like this, a lot of the post-punk new wave stuff like I do, you can tell. You can tell what kind of stuff I'm into. You'll like some of his music. So, peace.